Okay, welcome everybody to the Friday edition of Ghost Town Politics. This is a political nooner. I'm Rachel's ghost over here. This handsome fella is Blake McKenzie. We love Blake. Good Scottish name, Blake. Holy smokes, what a great heritage. The Scots, the proud Scots. I've got another 20 or so little X items to do. There's nothing major breaking. They've arrested a couple of the clowns, Antifa, etc., out in Minneapolis, which is a positive. Trump won big in a DEI case, so he can start firing some of these near do wells. We're learning more about FBI malfeasance and things. Of course, we had the story in Canada, Toronto, corrupt cops acting like the mob. It's just, I think the big takeaway this week, last week for me, is just how endemic and how systemic corruption is in the various levels of government, in our institutions. And it just seems there's hardly anything that has been left that's not defiled. And the fallout is being felt everywhere. My main channel, I guess you call my main channel, Rachel's Ghost, which is a music channel back there, Ghost 2, that says it's all beautiful bokeh camera kind of trick. But there's upheaval, right? Like because of the ICE thing, these kids, the liberal pals of mine, they go watch CNN and then they're so outraged and so gaslit that they got to bring it in. And I cannot lend a sympathetic ear to these people because I wouldn't be true to myself. I would be fake. I can't do it. And it's like, can you disavow Jesus and then we can get along? And that's another, I can't do it. I'm so sorry. I wish I could, but I can't do it. I can't back down. I won't back down. Bob Dylan. All right. So I've got just a bunch here. Okay. This is kind of fun because we're calling today's episode something like Liberal Outrage Continues. And you think about all this stuff like Hollywood. Now that we've got the big Super Bowl event happening this weekend, and I guess this band, I've never heard of them. They've backed out. Kid Rock is doing TPUSA. Charlie Kirk's organization, the late great Charlie Kirk, his organization is doing alternative to the halftime show, which is the usual garbage from the left. Green Day, I think, is showing up and some guy who's called the Dance or the Prance or the Pants, something like that. Anyway, that guy is going to be doing the main headlining on the halftime show. It's just nonsense. Let's share the clip. This is kind of interesting. This is kind of the price people pay. I better make this a little bit larger so that for our collective edification. Megyn Kelly's show, it did relegate me to the Fridge Society in Hollywood. Actor and comedian Kelsey Grammer. Maybe you didn't know Kelsey Grammer is a Republican type, known for his roles Cheers, Frasier, X-Men, tells Megyn Kelly what it is like to be an outspoken Republican in Hollywood. Kind of interesting. So let's give him a whirl and see how he gets on.
You've been kind of outspoken. My team found a clip of you, speaking of you going on Leno from 2012, talking about being an out Republican. Yeah. Now that's bold. 2012. Like, wow, you came out with it pretty early.
I wasn't really on.
You were already a big star. But why be so open about it? Because virtually every Republican I know in Hollywood just calls themselves an independent.
Yeah, that's why it's so popular now. So there's a lot of people who are popularly, oh, I'm an independent. Well, okay, well, fine. So thank God you make some sense once in a while. I'm a little more outspoken about it. I just think it's sort of exhausting to be so up in arms about every single issue that comes down the pike. It is not wise, I think, to take anything but a longer view of things, to have a little bit of perspective and to stand back from issues that seem important in that day or in that moment and realize that, yeah, that's the currency of political discourse, I guess, and of trying to win elections or not win elections or destroy your opponents. I mean, we live in America. We're all Americans. We need to remember that, and at least I believe we need to remember that, and that my fellow American is not my enemy. Now that goes back to my Christian lens that I put on things, which is love thy enemy as thyself. do unto others as you would have others do unto you. These are things that still are important to me. And so that's why I think I probably outed myself a long time ago. In retrospect, and this is a current topic, it did relegate me to the fringes of society in Hollywood. And so I may have had my peccadillos, as they say, but I was never part of the dungeon crowd, the stuff I've heard about. I'm not in that world. And so the world that,
How did it relegate you to the fringes?
oh, well, I wasn't invited to those parties. Oh, I'm
Phew.
glad I wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So
Good job, Kelsey. Staying out
yeah.
of that.
Okay, so it is kind of interesting because we've got all the talk currently about Epstein and the corruption and everything else going on.
Well, and even dating back to what's that the manager Harvey Weinstein was the other guy that
Harvey Weinstein, the Me Too situation, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
But but it's kind of interesting because like I've got another one here. I hope this is the right one. Let's see what I've got here. CNN admits Trump, because, it's all about when he's talking about the dungeons. This is the sex stuff. This is, all the nasty with Epstein and all the rest of it. CNN admits President Trump was telling the truth. Mainstream media not only lied to you about, quote, Pizzagate. That's kind of interesting. Pizzagate's getting a lot of coverage right now over on the X platform because of, even Bill Maher. There's a quote from Bill Maher coming out saying, maybe we owe Q, he calls them QAnon, but basically Q, all an apology, because it seems that a lot of Q was talking about this stuff. It seems so outrageous to the normies back then, for people like myself that were on the inside, nose to the grindstone on all this stuff. This is old news. But Pizzagate was disavowed and ridiculed, etc. They lied to you about Trump. On top of that, they gaslit the public for years while they were the ones lying to your face. Trump reposting this. CNN was painfully forced to admit Trump was telling the truth and cut ties with Epstein after Trump learned of Epstein's sexual misconduct at Mar-a-Lago with one of his employees back in the day. Big we go. Play we go. Here we go. Let's tune in. CNN tells the story.
Epstein. The Journal reports that a spa worker from Mar-a-Lago often made house calls to Jeffrey Epstein's home 2 miles away. But those house calls, quote, came to a halt in 2003 after an 18-year-old beautician returned to the club from a house call to Epstein and reported to managers that he had pressured her for sex. The HR manager faxed Trump a letter suggesting that the club ban Epstein. And Trump agreed, which does mirror the president's own public comments about why he cut ties with Epstein. The White House is responding to the Wall Street Journal, writing, no matter how many times this story is told and retold, the truth remains President Trump did nothing wrong, and he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep.
He cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein long before Epstein became a convicted sex offender. A lot of Democrats didn't, and it is corroborated by the Wall Street Journal tonight.
Epstein. The Journal reports that a spa worker from Mar-a-Lago.
So, this is a story from there. And then we got this story as well. Play another one just to kind of wrap this up, and then we'll go to some play-by-play from Blake on all this. So here we go. Another one breaking. Last night, Trump shared the video I made showing the truth about Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Fake news always fails to report on it. God bless you, Mr. Best President. And thank you for sharing my post, not once, but twice. Okay, follow Bo Ludd. It's a little self-promotion from Bo. Let's go way
Epstein
back here.
believed that Donald Trump went.
Sorry, let's pause. Let's get the volume up a little bit. Make this bigger, and let's play.
Epstein believed that Donald Trump went to the Palm Beach police and said, Jeffrey Epstein has young girls at his house, thereby beginning the legal process which would ultimately bring Jeffrey Epstein down.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, He is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
All right. So, Blake, there we go. Two stories. Basically, explain the story. Like, this is long before Trump needed to take action on Epstein because of any social pressure. Nobody knew who the fuck Jeffrey Epstein was in 2003, for example. The general public, the people in New York and people in high places knew who he was, but a lot of people didn't know. That's a new record. We've got that story up here as well. Let me cover this or get the link for it. But yeah, that's another big breaking story. The economy is going gangbuster under this president. It's a world record's first time it's happened. Holy smoke. Yeah, it hit 50,000 for the first time ever. So
I'm looking at it right now, 50,001.91 as we speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So tremendous effort. It shows that Trump's right about the tariffs. It shows Trump's right on the economy, how everything has just been accurate from the president's viewpoint. And his financial team, Bassett and company, are doing an incredible job on everything. Hey, Brian, welcome aboard. I don't have my hat, so the camera is just really locked in on the focus here today. It's behaving itself a lot better, but always nice to hear from Brian out in Tokyo. Super nice guy. Okay, so Blake, Trump, guilty, Epstein. What does this do? Again, the outrage continues. They screamed, they wanted Trump on this. This was their big thing that the Dems were feeding to their base. Unfortunately, I believe their base is going to be extremely disappointed, and it's already starting to tilt where a lot of their big donors, a lot of their big players are being called into question for their dealings with Epstein. And like people like Deepak Chopra says, oh, I like the young girls. God is a concept, but I'm digging the young chicks, stuff like this. If you're following this self-help guru, I don't know what I can say for you. You might be better off following an idiot like Kenneth Copeland, for the love of God. But go ahead, Blake. Tell me about, Trump. I think it puts him in great favor that in 2003, long before the scrutiny was on, Epstein's already bounced out. And one of the things that Dems, just before I release you on this thing, release the hounds, is that the Dems are claiming, one of the latest talking points is like Trump is mentioned 34,000 times in the Epstein documents that were released, 34,000 times. But then, as one of our pundits said, the reason what they fail to tell you, what the Dems aren't telling you, Trump is mentioned 34,000 times because the Dems were talking with Epstein. How can we get rid of Trump?
Yeah, exactly.
He was get rid of this guy.
He was working as a confidant within the, well, let's say bigger than a confidant. He was an advisor, literally. When you look at it from the inside perspective, to the point that he was also in charge of operations of trying to demolish and organize the Democratic troops on the ground. But I won't say it's probably Democrats alone. It's going to be some rhinos in there too. I'm certain. Thank God. I know everyone's worried about AI, but thank God for AI, because AI can scan these reports literally in minutes, where 3 million documents would take somebody years to scan through it all. AI is scanning through by keywords. You can just ask AI. You can download those documents if you want yourself, all 3 million of them, and you can go through them and find the information yourself. But to go on the point, do the Dems care? No. Maybe some middle of the road independent types that vote, sometimes Democrat, sometimes Republican. I suspect they will, the hardcore entrenched Democrat, doesn't matter what you tell them, they will just continue to believe the propaganda that they're told to spew out there. So that's why they're going on and about ICE. They're going on all the distractions that
Yeah,
they
the
can to
outrage
cover up.
again. Yeah, how accurate for
Yeah.
today's title, Blake, right? The outrage continues. But keep going.
Well,
Sorry to interrupt.
and I think that's kind of their modus operandi is mass distraction by causing, shock troops on the ground, who are, they're color revolutionaries, whatever you want to call them, but they're basically democratic organized shock troops to cause maximum disruption and distraction. And that's the key thing. And you can understand why Trump said now why Epstein was a bigger distraction, because Epstein reveals a lot of the corruption within the Democratic Party, because it's backfiring on them, because they were trying to point it to the Republicans again to distract from what the mass billions and if not trillions of dollars
Of fraud,
stealing and fraud all across the country, all across the world, and their allies across the world. Let's call it what they are. These are globalists, NGOs, all part of this whole scheme to try and manipulate and maintain control and power while stuffing their pockets full of dollars. And but Trump has been exonerated many times. You already know this, but it won't matter, right? You could throw the evidence right in their face and they will not care, because they're that delusional on reality. They will not accept facts.
So I got a great little clip to show you that kind of dovetails with what you're saying, right? That they will not accept that. And instead of kind of accepting the truth, or, gravitating or turning over and admitting, et cetera, they get even more, upset and, all worried, et cetera. So here's Elon Musk talking about his own personal encounter with that whole phenomena. Musk nails how insanely difficult it is to cut waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. If you cut off payments to fraudsters, they immediately come up with the most sympathetic sounding reasons to continue the payment. And when Elon ignored them, the outrage, they launched literal terror attacks against him and Tesla. Remember, they were blowing up all the Teslas. The left can't be reasoned with. Negotiating with terrorists never works. I'll say that again. The left cannot be reasoned with. Negotiating with terrorists never works. Here's Elon to talk a bit about it. Let's let the man speak.
Like the president, and very hard to cut even to cut things that are obvious waste and fraud, like ridiculous waste and fraud. What I discovered that it's extremely difficult even to cut very obvious waste and fraud from the government, because the government has to operate on like who's complaining. Like if you cut off payments to fraudsters, they immediately come up with the most sympathetic sounding reasons to continue the payment. They don't say, please keep the fraud going. They say, they're like, you're killing baby pandas. And we're like, meanwhile, there's no baby pandas are dying. They're just making it up. The fraudsters are capable of coming up with extremely compelling, sort of heart-wrenching stories that are false, but nonetheless sound sympathetic. And that's what happened. So it's like, perhaps I should have known better. But I thought, wait, let's try to cut some amount of waste and fraud from the government.
Yeah. So and of course you can't reason with them, because when he did this, and of course this is when we got all the reaction to because he was putting the hurt on, and so what did they do? We see the same thing in Minnesota. The ICE come in. We got Nick Shorter coming in. Not Nick. Is it Nick? No,
Shirley.
Nick Shirley comes in, and this young kid's in there, exposes all the fraud. And next thing you know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We got all this rioting and anti-ICE, and the narrative shifts to that with a lot of violence and destruction of public property. So some real truth. And I think that's just kind of a personal example that Elon had in his business that reflects that same kind of, dissonance that the left has from dealing with this stuff.
Well, there was Elon, actually, I'm not sure if it was the same interview, but there was a clip I saw where he was talking about, he didn't even want to talk about any further stuff he knows. He goes, because he was so scared that these people will kill him.
Yeah.
And then he basically stated that there is information that he will not talk about, that he knows, that would endanger his life for sure.
Yeah.
So he knows this mob, let's call them for what they are. They're a criminal organization. As we've been saying all along, this is an organized criminal organization worldwide. It's a crime network. It is like Spectre from the James Bond era.
Yeah.
And they are, but probably closer aligned to the old Italian mob crime families on how they set it up.
Yes.
And he was afraid for his life. And I was just watching that yesterday, and he was saying, I can't talk about this stuff, because if I talk about this stuff and I reveal some of the stuff I know, he goes, I'm certain they'll try and kill me. Right. And that's kind of where it's at this point. He goes, there's stuff in there. So I think he's left all that, the stuff that came out of Doge, the stuff, all he's handed it, Trump, it's your ball now. Because Trump's like, I don't care. They took a shot at me, fight. They've got a war now. Those capos that are running under these godfathers that are running them around the world are, they're also scared now, because I think, what we don't see happening is what is the part that I would love to see be the fly on the wall, how they're going after these criminal, like they did with Maduro. He's part of the whole thing, grabbing the capos, bringing them in, let them sing their songs to gain their freedom, and ratting out the worldwide globalist cartel that's been running this show for a long time. The funny thing is, the greatest speech I just heard yesterday was the fact that these ground troops that are running around going ice, 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 and the Hollywood elites, the Billie Eilish, and all these gay people running around virtue signaling, Bruce Springsteen's doing his thing. It's just like, you guys are just part of the propaganda machine. You are working for the very fascists you're fighting. And that's the thing. And the Promethean actually had a really good guy on this morning. I was watching it. And he was talking about, and what we've described it as, the Confederacy, the people who tried to break up with the United States, the Confederacy that was supported by the United Kingdom, the Confederacy that believed that, those people, what are we going to do without people to pick cotton? Kind of like we showed that example of a modern liberal going, he does really well, loves cooking. It's like, we love our refugees because they could cook well in my house.
That wasn't that a great clip we played that one?
It's brilliant, because that is the white liberal woman that people are pointing to that are absolutely
I got one lined up for us today, Blake, that you're just gonna frickin' love. Oh my God, the way you're just talking, but we got all that coming up in the show.
It's amazing, and it's this narcissism that it's like collective narcissism of this entire group. They can't see beyond their own faces, and unfortunately, there's a lot of them, enough of them to cause enough disruption and problems, get into the government and continue on with this corruption. What you talked about at the beginning of the show is that, there was a sense of honor amongst people, how you treated one another 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And it's been eroding every day, and it's getting harder.
We all used to laugh at Johnny Carson's Ronald Reagan impersonation. I've talked about it in my general music show a lot, just because it was such a classic thing. But it shows how things are so gaslit. The population is so manipulated and so controlled. And remember, I think Obama and also in Canada, laws were literally changed so that media could lie to us and spew bullshit without consequence for themselves. The only consequence they really suffer is people bypass them to the extent they're able. In England, the United Kingdom in general, there's a problem because the whole idea of YouTube, the British government wants to get their claws into YouTube so that they can charge everybody a subscription fee to the BBC by placing the BBC on YouTube. And that's how they get the money out of the population. You want YouTube now? We've married it to the BBC. Whereas none of these people want to be caught dead.
Well, that's a
listening to
Canadian
the
model. That's a
BBC.
Canadian model on digital services and the laws that they
Yeah.
have here to shake down those
Yeah, it's horrific.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were talking about kind of the liberal women that you were mentioning. This thing just cracked me up. And Billie Eilish, we are so far ahead of you with your stolen land bullshit. We're right in the very center of the universe on that, but it's all over China. And this one here, I don't know if you saw this.
No,
okay.
I haven't.
Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, it's already started playing on me. Hang on, buddy. We're going to get her here. We're going to pause her. We're going to go back. This one's a real pip. I know this looks like it could be a comedy skit, but it's not. Toronto Park has been renamed Shit Park. A lady looks like she's okay, here we go. She's all big, and let's listen in as she helps us learn cultural fun.
Hence the name Eta Nona Wastina. It translates to where they lived good and beautiful lives. Learning to say the name is just a small way we can all be accountable to healing our relationship with our nation's First Peoples. So let's go. Try it with me. Eta Nona Wastina. Eta Nona Wastina. Eta Nona Wastina.
Eta Nona Wastina.
All right, so there you go. I mean, my God, the saccharine. Let's say it together. Heil Hitler. Heil. Say it with me, children. And so, I mean, it's absolutely the most painful thing. Like I can say the word I
was thinking Welsh.
It is Welsh. That is fucking Welsh. But it doesn't mean I'm going to, we better honor Rachel's adoptive Welsh heritage. And keep in mind, honoring our First Nations people, I'm quarter frickin' Indian, okay? I'm Kiowa, I'm part Kiowa, I'm Cree, Dene, Chippewa. I've got all that going for myself. Hokey smokes. And, but, this kind of nonsense, or the renaming everything, of course, it removes all the history. I just saw another post where they were taking the coat of arms of the old Hudson's Bay off a building in Toronto in order to obfuscate and, if possible, to remove the very foundation and the memory of what Canada once was. As we turn it into a third world shithole. Okay. This morning, I was pondering the phenomenon of losing team fatigue on the part of Canadian Conservatives. I've spoken with a number of cons who are softening to Carney's policies. It's disheartening. There's no fatigue from MAGA. Conservative Canadians have nothing to stand on. The Conservative Party in Canada is particularly a shit show. It's sold out. They had to vote yes on trans children. A lot of their intercoms were just hacked or released or leaked. And they're all about, we've got to put up with the trans ideology and transgender for children if we're going to get elected, gang. So let's sell the children down the river, allow them to get medically treated in order to propagate our ideology so that we can get our foot in the door. Not even our ideology, just so we get the paycheck, we get to make the rules rather than liberals. Two wings, same bird. And you've got Stephen Harper coming out, echoing the same words. It's got him and Jean Chrétien lockstep, holding hands together, saying, this is the candidate we want. Keep Trump out, all the rest of it. It's a
let's remember who they represent. Who do they represent?
Talk to us, Blake.
We got to go right back to the evidence that Promethean Action rolls out. These guys are tied to the Empire Loyalists group. This is the group that wants to maintain what we call in Canada the Laurentian elite, who are the oligarchs that run Canada, both in their corporate monopolies and banking cartels and central banking side, that are allied to who? London, right? The London financial system, the Crown. Look, let's just call it for what it is, the Crown worldwide. So those banks that operate out of the London financial sector and who are really the orchestrators of the WEF, right? They're the ones that have been pushing, the creation of the EU. And, I was just looking at some data here, but those guys represent a time in which they believe that to maintain this power and order structure, they need to fight against this rise in individual liberty and freedom, because they can't have individual liberty and freedom under that old empire loyalist belief system that, you're here to fight for God, king, and country, right?
Yeah.
In this case, I want my own relationship with God. And sorry, I don't have a king that's going to rule over me outside of Jesus Christ. So other than that, you are not my king, and I'm not going to bend a knee to that. But that's where the Republic comes in, and that's what they've been fighting for 250 years to prevent happening in Canada. And that's why they're still there. They're the old order. And if we can focus in on them, and that's what Pat's talking about, these conservatives are what they are by name. They conserve their traditions. They are empire loyalists. If you really want to do something, and of course the liberals have just become Marxists, and they are also tied to that in their leadership. Carney was who? He was an appointee of Stephen Harper. Now, I like Stephen Harper as a person, but I think as they go up the ranks and grow in their power, that then they have to be far more organized by those elites that we talk about, the Laurentian elite. Say, if you want power, you got to do what we tell you. Because he started off as a Western. He worked under Preston Manning under Reform when the West. Remember the old.
They sell their soul. They lose their soul as they go up. You have to compromise.
And they, and I think that's the key word, compromise. We got to find a compromise. But the weakness, and this is the frustrating side, the weakness of the leadership of the right in Canada is on full display, because they're so scared of our traditional media. And, hearing some really good podcasters out there, people saying the same thing. Canada needs a Canadian Donald Trump who's not afraid to go punch these guys out in the media airwaves. Go at them hard, call them out for what they are. There's only one guy I've seen so far who's doing that, and that's that Rath gentleman. And he's throwing haymakers. He doesn't care. He's all in, and he's just basically telling these Easterners, too bad, we're out.
Yeah,
so you guys might as well start preparing. You want your liberal maritime crowd. You guys out of Ontario, it's time for you to fund your maritime welfare votes, because we're not going to do that anymore. We're out. So just count us out. Start planning that we're out. And that's just basically what he's saying. And so that's the kind of leadership you need at a national level to say, well, we can't allow these post-national status, these Marxists who want to break up Canada, because they are breaking up Canada. They're saying there is no Canada. That's what their words are. Post-national state means no core identity, means no country. So if you can't have a nation that is united, you can't give united speeches and say we're post-national state at the same time. It is not possible. It's not, unless you're a united group of morons, lemmings, clapping seals, protecting your pensions. That's all you're thinking about, because that's what you're told by these people. And it's funny, if you ask a Canadian, I remember we used to joke about this years ago. That's why I got the flag behind me. This is a 25-year-old book. You used to laugh about this, that Canadians could never define themselves. And when it came down to it, what makes you different from an American, because that was always the defining thing. Well, we have to define ourselves. We're just not American. Oh, it's like, well, we are actually American because we're in North America. So we're all Americans in America. We're just not a U.S. citizen.
United States. We're not part of the United States.
Exactly. So the point is, what was the difference that made us? Well, I can only find one thing historically, is that we were part of a nation built on a monopoly, the Hudson's Bay Company corporation, run out of where? England. Who else supported the formation of Canada? The same people who left the United States, the colonies, and they called them loyalists.
Yeah.
These loyalists created Canada. They were anti-America. They were anti-1776. They left to stay part of the crown. So that is Canada's history, is still nothing more than a crown corporation, or a monopoly, a Hudson's Bay Company monopoly tied to Empire loyalists who left the United States, maintained their power out of London, had no independence, run by bureaucrats. That's the system, right? And Canada really, and what is a more modern thing that Canadians talk about? Well, we are just, we have healthcare. We don't have to pay for healthcare. And it's like, okay, so that defines our nation? That we have universal health care, which is collapsing everywhere.
Yeah. On a personal note, very interesting, because Sue's people are all Empire loyalists, and her great-great-grandfather was the premier. Well, what was he? He was the, he was a member of parliament is what he was. Yeah, he was a member of parliament for Wellington, Ontario, in Wilfrid Laurier's government, and he was good friends with John A. Macdonald. So Sue's people are at the very foundation of Canada. He also showed up. He was the brigade surgeon at Batoche in 1885, when Louis Riel's run around causing trouble with the rebellion, the Northwest Rebellion. So her great-great-grandfather was on the government side. My great-great-grandfather was on the Indian side, taking pot shots at Sue's ancestor. So just kind of crazy. And of course, during the American Revolution, my people fought for America in the Revolution. Sue's people were the Empire loyalists, and actually her sixth great uncle was hung in Ogdensburg, New York, for treason against the United States, because he was a lieutenant in the British Army, kind of thing. So they hung that guy.
There's a point there. Farley makes a point. Canada attacked America at one point.
Yeah.
Actually, Canada has never attacked the United States ever as a nation, as defined, because Canada didn't come into existence until 1867. So a lot of people point to the War of 1812. And the War of 1812 was a war between who? England and the United States. It was not a war between Canada and the United States. Matter of fact, it was the same characters, a lot of them who were involved in the original Revolutionary War, that were connected to that battle that flared up again. And, some Canadians proudly pump their chest. Yeah, we burnt down the White House. Actually, you didn't. Canada has never burnt down the White House. The British burnt down the White House. The British burnt down the White House. So let's get that correct, Canadians. You didn't exist until 1867. You did not exist. The British North America Act did not come into reality until 1867. So get it right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, long history. 1814, took a little trip along Colonel Jackson to muddy Mississippi, took a little bacon, little beans, fought the British in the town of New Orleans. What a great song. It was Johnny Horton. It was fantastic. Question, kind of a program note more than anything else, and a little inner politics with my main program. We have a character named Herkimer. Herc is a very active leftist. Is Herc's lefty commentary welcomed in this form, or is he just banned from the VC stream? It's not really welcome anywhere where I am. It's not welcomed, right? And nobody wants to hear. You know why? Because he doesn't come in with an argument. He just Trump's a pedo. Talk what's pedo Orange Man doing. This is about the level of it. And I like Herc as a guy, but politically, no, I don't welcome it here. So it's not welcome here. And the left claims, they confiscate. They get the whole notion of free speech all wrong. I'm all for. They go censorship. If I block a voice or I shut something down. This is my soap stool or whatever. This is my little soapbox. Me and Blake. Okay, it's our soapbox. So it's our voices. If you like it, come in and enjoy. Gather around kitties and have a roast a weenie on the marshmallow, whatever, and enjoy while we cover some of the pressing issues of the day. But no, I have no obligation to honor your free speech here. What your free speech is, you go do your own live stream and I'll stay the fuck out of it and then have your free speech. That's free speech. Anything else confiscates it. What's the word I'm looking for, Blake? It conflates it. You're confusing things. Apples and oranges. It doesn't relate. It doesn't correlate. It doesn't fit. So Herc's welcome here, but he can shoulder in and listen along like everybody else. And I'm willing to take a legitimate criticism of if you have a legitimate criticism, sure, I'm all for it. But if it's just Orange Man bad, it does nobody any good. It doesn't edify anyone. We don't learn anything from it. We just go, we get it. You hate Trump. Got it.
Or just keep yelling, hey, you're a fascist, you're a racist,
yeah,
blah,
this
blah,
kind
blah,
of garbage.
as life goes on.
Yeah.
Diminishing the actual reality in that terminology completely. I've always wondered, the left, the reality is, I think the modern left, not the old left. The old left to me were classical liberals. They were the ones that
we have communists now. We're dealing with
that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
We're not dealing with left in the sense of the traditional sense of a right-left debates, which were between individual rights and freedoms, between the religious context of it, and that's where these guys used to argue. Are people naturally born evil, or do they have, so that was a conservative viewpoint. If you were born with sin and evil, then you can't be trusted. Thus, you need laws to control your behavior. Where liberals believed is, no, we believe people are naturally good and they should have rights and freedoms to be able to, practice what they want as long as it doesn't infringe on others. And I think that's the traditional right-left arguments coming from that core system, really based around Christianity, because that was the sort of Judeo-Christian principles that we came from the Bible, and we fought and argued over those right-left arguments there. But as you said, this anti-God Marxist philosophy that has infected so many levels of our society now, that it does not connect with our constitutions. That's the problem. Once we realize that side of the spectrum, that far left Marxist socialist viewpoint is in contradiction to the Constitution. You have a right to talk about it, but you do not have a right to govern under it, under the United States Constitution. Unfortunately, here in Canada, there isn't any of those controls in place that limits the power you get through a constitution. So a socialist, a communist should not be able to gain power in the United States. Unfortunately, people in the United States aren't willing to protect the Constitution with fervor. Now that's MAGA, right? That's MAGA, is the pushback, the fight back, reconstituting the United States, bringing that back. It is a classical liberal revolution, is what you're experiencing in the United States right now, where the socialists and the Marxists are fighting and the monopolists and the international interests who have coalesced together to try and destroy the United States. Unfortunately, Canada, we don't have that. We have the idea of it and we live like it, but we don't have the same protections because we live next to the border to the United States. We've been raised to think we have the same rights and freedoms as an American. Ours can be legislated away with a pen. That's the difference. Theirs are born and given to them by God, which means no legislative pen can take that freedom, a freedom of speech and all that. But it does restrict your ability to govern. So if you want to be a Marxist running around the United States talking about Marxism and how great communism is and has never been done in its purity, because you'll always hear the same argument. Everywhere they touch turns into total destruction. But their argument is it's never been done to its exact with the way it should be. Well, guess what? That Constitution says you can't operate here under that. You just can't. That's just it. So talk about it all you want, universities, blah, blah, blah. So that's why they're trying to create a new revolution at the ground level. But unfortunately, they're what did Lenin call them? The useful idiots, right? For the elites that allow the chaos because they want to maintain their power and monopoly. But kind of a long way around the whole freedom of speech side, but understanding that there is limits in the sense that power, when it comes to power.
Okay, thank you for that, Blake. Free speech. Sorry, I got to leave this up a little longer. Free speech, but no free shots is how I go. Free speech, but no free shots. Yeah, I mean, it's just common sense. Now, this is a statement I disagree with. It's far too pessimistic for me. The deliberate exposure of the corruption of malevolence. Malevolence in society is designed to get people to demand a new system. The new system will be worse. I disagree. It is not here's the reality, Pat. You got to understand what's happening. The deliberate exposure of corruption and malevolence in society is not designed to get people to demand a new system. It's designed for people to recover the old system that we lost through infiltration by communists, essentially. There was a report. There was one out on X. I don't even know if I grabbed it. There's so many of these tabs still open. That said today, we had a guy, a U.S. senator talk, who said there's a lot of people that are in the halls of power right now that through corrupt manipulation of the voting system are in the halls of power that should never even be there. They were not democratically elected. They were placed there. They need to be removed. And so it's not replacing anything with the current system with something new. Rather, it's a restoration of the republic as envisioned by the founding fathers. That's what we're doing. It's the reclamation of that which was lost. So I look at it far more positively. So no, nothing. The new system will not be worse. So the new system is of the people, by the people, and for the people. For the people. That's what it's for. All right, Blake, your take on this comment. Do you agree with Pat, or do you have a different take on what you see occurring?
Well, I do agree that there is groups, as you said, the Marxist groups that are deliberately trying to create mass destruction and corruption so that people will demand that change. In any revolution, it will create a vacuum, right? Who's going to take, if you were to topple government, right? The big thing is, in a vacuum of power, somebody is going to step in and take charge. What is that going to look like? And unfortunately, Marxists do want to stir up that kind of destruction because they want to collapse the capitalist society, right? And I think that's the intent, is they want to show that the capitalist system fails, that individual rights and freedoms fail, that collectivism works, and that the only answer is a collective. See, we have one thing in common right now, and I would say you and I and Marxists. We want a republic, right? Because we want laws, the res publica, laws of the people. But there is republics, and then there's republics, right? We've got the American Republic that enshrined these protections at different levels, right? It has checks and balances at every level. So individual freedom, individual rights.
Yeah, we hold these truths to be self-evident.
And from God. And then they have checks and balances between the states, right? So limited power on each state so that one state can't control them all. They have different levels. You got their House of Representatives. It's more of the populist kind of look at the vote, where the Senate equalizes the states. The states are represented, where the House of Representatives represents the local, the very hyper-local side of the people's interests. Then you got the state interests at the Senate level, and then you've got the executive branch, which is the running of the country, which is under the presidency, right? The executive branch, that side of it. So I think the three levels are well protected. But the difference I think we experience here is that in Canada, we have one system. And if we were to change it, we would have an awful time trying to convert to a republic that mirrors the United States, because the far leftists would try and get us into a republic that would be like the republic. China is a republic. The People's Republic of China.
People's Republic.
The former Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, right? USSR. Apparently, when you go read the rights and freedoms that they had under the Soviet Union. It is a masterpiece article that's worth shit because it gave you all kinds of rights under the collective. And essentially created a republic that was a disaster for its people, murdered millions, just like Chinese communism murdered. So we don't want a Cuba. We don't want a republic like North Korea, where you have a dictator for life. We're not interested in that stuff. And I think that's the difference. Canada would have a hard time because we have a lot of people who believe in socialism because they live and are dependent off the system. So any kind of republic that would be formed in Canada, we would need the assistance of the United States to ensure that the Marxists don't get in there and corrupt that constitution.
All right. We're having fun with James Farley's comments out there. All right, let's take a look at this. Here's some good news. Things are happening. Marco Rubio, his State Department just put out the word, folks, if you're an American in the American embassies over in Iran, get the hell out. Things are shaking in Iran. So here's the headline. Let me go up here. The regime knows time is running out. Jim Ferguson, Scott Bassett confirms what many suspected. Iran's leadership is wiring money out of the country at speed. Not to help their people, not to stabilize the economy, but save themselves. When the elites move their wealth, it's not confidence, it's fear. When the insiders flee financially, it's because they see what's coming. The public face is defiance. Behind the scenes, it is panic. History is clear. When the rats start leaving the ship, they know it's about to sink. Okay, Scott, tell us all what's going on. Here we go.
Benson. We have seen the Iranian leadership wiring money out of the country like crazy. So the rats are leaving the ship, and that is a good sign that they know the end may be near. Our fencing, we have seen the Iranian.
All right. So Iran, a lot of pressure there. I guess the U.S. shut down a drone that was out by one of the carriers out there in the Gulf. So TikTok for Iran, it looks that way. Also, a lot of pressure on Cuba right now. So this, again, we're going back to the Monroe Doctrine. Trump's moving ahead, controlling the Western Hemisphere, but also taking care of its enemies, Iran being one of them. And of course, the fiasco with Benghazi made headlines with some movement there. So great to see. If they're wiring money there, we could be on the verge of seeing something topple in Iran, and this would be good news indeed. And then Blake, before I move on, or before I forget, the question was asked much earlier. Savannah Guthrie is an NBC, I think she's an NBC reporter, pundit, and she kind of cross-examined Trump about Epstein, or it was something like that years ago during Trump's first run. And she was, pretty brutal on Trump, trying to get him, catch him, the usual garbage. Her mother got kidnapped, and Trump said, we're going to put every resource we have, hopefully, to capture the bad guys and get your mother returned safely. I'm not up to the latest on it. I know there was a copycat. Somebody got his nose in there and left a message to the FBI. They were able to decode that, trace the guy. He's been arrested for being an idiot. But I don't know if her mother's safe or been returned or anything at all like that. Blake?
Sorry, I have no comment on, like you. I'm not up to speed on where it's at this point.
Yeah. Okay. And then, well, maybe we'll end the show with that one today, Blake, what you got there in the private chat. Okay. Yeah. Let's move this again, going back to Trump. Here's another one, when they try and go, oh, Trump's all evil, blah, blah, blah. This one here is a pretty big one. This came out a few years ago. Trump just posted this, Truth Social. Make sure you watch to the end where it flashes the where we go one, we go all Q flag. Whether you want to believe it or not, Trump posts Q memes and videos all the time, correct? And I'm tired of people ignoring it. It's not a coincidence or an accident. Here's Julian Assange, WikiLeaks. talking about Trump and corruption. Can we get this guy Russiagate? They had to make up all the crap on Trump to dirty him, but the guy's clean. Let's hear what Julian Assange says.
I got to ask you about the U.S. election. As you point out, you're not an American citizen. You're an Australian. You know, you're clearly not rooting for Hillary. But are you rooting for Trump?
No. I mean, if we have good information on Trump, we publish that. If we have good information on Hillary, the Democrats, we publish that. It is a bit concerning, the allegations that by the Clinton campaign that everyone is a Russian agent are really disturbing. Why is that? Well, because bizarrely, Hillary Clinton, the Democrat, has positioned herself now to be the security candidate. She's powered up with the neocons responsible for the Iraq War, and she's grabbed on to this kind of neo-McCarthyist hysteria about Russia and is using that to demonize the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign has all sorts of things wrong with it, but as far as we can see, being Russian agents is not one of them. You know, some people have asked us, when will you release information on Donald Trump? And of course, we're very interested in all countries to reveal the truth about different candidates so people can understand. But it's really hard for us to release anything worse than what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth every second day. I mean, it's part of his charismatic appeal that he speaks off the cuff.
TikTok, ladies and gentlemen.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, Blake, again, Julian Assange coming. If we had dirt on him, we'd publish it. We got nothing.
That's from available. That's from like 9 years ago.
It is, yeah.
And boy, did he have a turn of events in life, right? I mean, the guy had to live in hiding inside a Chilean or Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. I mean, because they were going after him hot. I mean, they wanted Mike Pence, Hillary, the whole gang were all behind trying to get him. They were trying to Seth Rich him as quick as they could.
Yeah, you know what's interesting too? Again, liberal outrage being the kind of the sub theme of today's program, or the undercurrent that's through everything. Nicki Minaj, big story there. She came out and said in favor of support of Trump, just loves him. Her following, I've been watching X, and there's this whole thing. I forget what they're calling it. It's they even got their own little term for it. It's called Barbs. I don't know what it stands for, much about it, but her fans are called Barbs or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. You folks that are followers of Nicki Minaj, I'm very elderly. I know sweet F all about this, but let's play this here, or just bring it to everyone's attention. This is from the female Wheezy. So she's got this thing. This is why they've been trying to silence Nicki Minaj. The Barbs are the most loyal and powerful fan base. They know how powerful and influential she is. MAGA is welcoming us with open arms. We're about to be a powerful force, and it's what America needed. MAGA and Barbs. And so Trump joining forces or taking advantage of Nicki Minaj's support for him. And, you know, even Trevor Noah at the Grammys, it's their show and everything. They couldn't help but acknowledge Nicki Minaj. They know that she's an influencer in this regard. Yeah. And I want to share this as well while we're on that story. Justin Scott Pressler offers to help register any Nicki Minaj fan who either is a new voter or needs to switch their party, because there's all these posts on X going, hey, I've been a Democrat all my life, but the way the left is treating Nicki, I'm switching. And it's quite the thing for a lot of these black people, because traditionally their families vote Democrat. But awesome, the Democrats are bleeding even more support. And there's Nicki with the president in behind her. So, I mean, this is really a phenomena that happened right now.
Well, and what is that phenomena? Let's call it for what it is. Hollywood and the music industry has taken the side of the old establishment. So they're pretending that they're being anti-establishment. Again, this is a projection psyop that's being done by these people, and they're useful idiots like Billie Eilish. But I'm just saying, I'm sure Billy just said, you were told by your publicist, just say it because you'll get all this great reaction. It's so counterculture. No, you are the culture that we're countering now. So the countercultural position is what the anti-establishment side is, what the Nicki Minaj's is, or the link I put in you, guys like Tom McDonald, who are speaking to the young, right? And getting them to go more conservative, more right-leaning. And it's amazing that these people can show up in front of a camera and just, I mean, it's Ricky Gervais during the Golden Globes, they're trashing them. Exactly. Nobody cares because essentially nobody really cares what you think anymore, but because it has no power. And what we saw that with Taylor Swift, right? Completely staged programming that she would come out and support, and everybody knew is all staged, the fake crocodile tears videos with her parents who were Republicans apparently, and she had to argue with them in front of the camera, and then she came out and posted immediately 3 minutes later. It was all staged PR event that she's supporting Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, right? And it just, what did that do? They didn't win. No. Not even close.
Celebrities no longer have that same kind of pull.
They don't have that power. And I think guys like, some of the financial bagmen, like who's that actor, George Clooney, is a bagman for the Democrats raising money within Hollywood. He had to walk away from Biden. He's the one, him and his group, that said, okay, we got to change plans here because Biden's falling apart. Because he did one debate with Trump and completely collapsed because he was mentally not capable to be the president.
Here's a little juice for you regarding Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden, you mean the most important whistleblower in the new millennium, but it turns out a forlorn sacrifice. I would argue that Julian Assange was the most important whistleblower. Julian Assange was part of my own kind of ignoring Trump and not really caring. He was this apprentice TV host, loudmouth real estate guy that made the papers, the society papers, had no interest in him. But when Trump came out, and it was Julian Assange that released all the information from the Democrat comms, so it resulted in two DNC chairs, Donna Brazile and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, having to step down. Absolute waves went through there. He revealed so much stuff. That's where all the hot dogs came from. This is where the pizza comms came from. And now that's having a hell of a lot more relevance in 2026 than it did in 2016. I'll tell you that much. But it's Assange. Here's the thing Q said about Edward Snowden. He said, here's the deal. He says, Snowden never criticizes the CIA. He only criticizes the NSA. Watch out for Snowden. So Snowden had his agenda as well. And so he was a CIA loyalist. And so there was dirt there. And so as part of Snowden's job, there was an internal struggle between the NSA and the CIA for the ear of the president for control of the White House. And so Snowden had his side with the CIA. So he was a CIA operative. So something to bear in mind where you try to suss and work your way through all of that stuff. Okay, let's do another one. We got so many of these things. Okay, let's see what we got. It's like a little jar of surprises. Okay, yeah. So look at this. This is crazy. So in Las Vegas, they just found a lab filled with bio weapons and all the rest of it. Just before the COVID pandemic, Chinese scientists sending viruses to Wuhan from where? China. The president of the Public Health Agency was summoned, and he refused to share documents. This is absolute Canada, the absolute state of Canada. We now have covert biolabs in Vegas homes linked to China. How many cover-ups involve China or the Wuhan Institute of Virology? And then on top of that, there's another little story that just breaks out as well. Let me get this one as well, because I had it. Okay, check this. So then I got this. This I actually had to check with Grok. Nestle Foods, surprise. Nestle Foods has had to recall large amounts of their baby formula due to toxins in the food. Can you guess where it came from? It came from a supplier, which is a biotech company in Wuhan. Nestle is feeding babies ingredients from biotech company from Wuhan. You can't make it up. So there's a little grok. And if you have grok, you can just like, I go, grok, explain this. So then grok goes, Nestle recalled multiple batches of infant formula with 60 countries due to contamination with cerulide, a heat-stable toxin from Bacillus cereus bacteria sourced from Cabio Biotech in Wuhan, which supply ARA, an omega-6 fatty acid essential for brain development. And on it goes. The incident of 2008 Chinese melamine scandal that hospitalized 300,000 infants worldwide. Yep. So Nestle had to kill their baby food. Because it came out of a lab in Wuhan. I mean, Blake,
and this goes back to even before Wuhan. We're talking about plastics that are being used for our children and its food, BPA, right? And that came out of China. And yet China wouldn't allow BPA in their own population to have it, but it was imported into North America. Toxins within the plastic equipment that we use to drink water bottles or feed our kids, and it's made in plastics for peanut butter, and it was creating this chemical that was horribly tied to cancer and other problems. Apparently could convert people in there, maybe why we have some, gender issues, right? Because of the chemical disruptors that is within BPA. But this seems like where the conspiracy theories, I was watching all this stuff rolling out. There was a great tweet a couple days ago, or not, an X post, we don't call them tweets anymore, where it shows like these two guys kind of like dressed in the 80s with the dance music, and it going, it's the conspiracy theorists are now 39-0.
Yeah.
And what else? And they're just like, yeah, we're right. We've been talking about this for 25 years.
Oh my God. I just looked at the time. It's like 1:06. There's so much more to cover. We got the election ballots. That's moving ahead. Yeah, there's just so freaking much. Trump won big. Breaking appeals court just lifted previous judge ruling blocking Trump from gutting DEI hires. Trump's got the go ahead. We have Nicki Minaj with Insight into Hollywood. We were talking about Kelsey Grammer early in the show, talking about I didn't get invited to these parties, but Nicki Minaj, this is the thing. It goes here, 23 million views. Not one celebrity or media outlet came forward to argue against Nicki Minaj. Her little post that says, your favorite artist has been practicing rituals in a satanic cult where they take babies from other countries, mutilate, kill them as a form of blood sacrifice to their God. You see, when your master is Satan, you must constantly shed blood. However, the jig is up, and she's got a little Chucky there, the little murder doll. And on and on and on it goes. Liberal outrage. All the darkness the light is shining in all the darkness. We're going to see where it ends up going. And even to your point, I always have the advantage up here, 4D. You're going, well, he brought all about electronic surveillance, all that. I would argue that Q, not QAnon, but Q, taught me a lot more about government overreach and surveillance and nasty tricks, far more than Snowden was. Snowden was a one-trick pony. He came in, he hit the NSA, the government spying on you through the NSA, and that was it. Off to Russia we go. Okay, Blake, final word to you. Do you want to play the little cowboy guy?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably good if anybody's ever heard of Tom McDonald. He's been around for probably about 5 years now.
Yeah.
He was all through COVID. He was attacking the whole woke culture. He's really the counterculture to the counterculture, if you want to call it. And he's helped rise the sort of rap side, but he's obviously dabbles in other kinds of music. And he's a Canadian, but lives in the U.S. I believe he might be a U.S. citizen now, or has applied.
Yeah, you and I are Canadians that would happily live in the U.S.
And he's a good guy. But anyways, he's got a new song out. I think it's kind of good timing. We were talking about Nicki Minaj and other artists that are now getting countercultural to the establishment that runs Hollywood and the music industry. They're propaganda arms.
All right, let's leave on a happy little sing along. Isn't that beautiful, little friends? Okay, here he is. Let's make him make this big. See what he said. New video, pray for the left. They can shoot us, burn our cities. We'll still pray for him. Here we go, folks. Musical time. You know, Rachel's Ghost. We love music. Here we go. Let's go back to the beginning. Pray for the left. That's a good idea. Here we go.
They always said that Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. Then they celebrated after they killed him. They tried to tell us that Black Lives Matter and that white people have always been villains. They burning flags in the streets and they scream at police, taking illegals to prison. They got rainbows on their bedroom walls and they swear to God that men can be women. They're scrolling through their TikToks to get the news. They heard that Trump's a fascist, they swear it's true. They set fire to Minnesota, we smell the fumes. They say that guns are dangerous, guess they're the proof. They'll shoot that red hat off your head, then make a meme of your last breath. Cause you're not like them, so they want you dead. But we'll still pray for the left. They'll say that they're hurt by things we said, and say we deserve it when we're dead. When we're shot in the neck with our last breath, we'll still pray for the left, praying for the left. They keep saying that ICE are the Nazis, so they're buying guns and tracking positions. Go tell the parents of the kids who were killed. Illegal immigrants are really the victims. They say America ain't safe if you're black or trans or gay. I think it's way more dangerous to be a Christian. Y'all started acting different back when Anthony Fauci made you keep the ones you love at a distance. They're scrolling through their TikToks, Antifa clips. They say that Trump is Hitler, they're mad they missed. They think that how they feel is how it is, and conservatives are evil, we shouldn't live. They'll shoot that red hat off your head, then make a meme of your last breath. Cause you're not like them, so they want you dead. But we'll still pray for the left. They'll say that they're hurt by things we said, then say we deserve it when we're dead. When we're shot in the neck with our last breath, we'll still pray for the left. Scratching swastikas and Teslas ain't gon' change a thing. You can burn our cities down, but we'll just make them great again. Oh, they hate us cause they say that we are full of hate. They wanna kill all the police trying to keep them safe. They'll shoot that badge of yours right off your chest. They want a civil war, pray for the left. They'll shoot that red hat off your head, then make a meme of your last breath. Cause you're not like them, so they want you dead. But we'll still pray for the left. They'll say that they're hurt by things we said, and say we deserve it when we're dead. When we're shot in the neck with our last breath, we'll still pray for the left, praying for the left.
That was excellent. Really, really like that one, Blake. I want to thank you for bringing that to the show for us all today. Great note to end on, pardon the pun, right? Great note.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we will be back on Tuesday. And, as we start from Tuesday to Friday, we always say, gosh, in 2-3 days, so much can happen between shows. So Blake and I will reconvene on Tuesday. And goodness knows what's going to happen at that point. And we're going to leave with my lovely Sue's final word. And yes, you're right, James Farley. Sue is absolutely beautiful. I can't hold a candle to her, and neither would I want to. She's my love of my life. In the end, God wins. Thanks, everybody. Thumbs up on the show, and give us a follow, share the media, and you know the drill. Take care. See you on Tuesday. And